Welcome to episode 3 of Not Another Fitness Podcast with me, Finn, and my side piece / co-host, Becky. So today is actually our, how many years? 30 years?
Feels like 30.
Anniversary. So
his face, these wrinkles, 30 years.
So, with it being our 3-year anniversary, we are going to talk about dating, relationships, and that kind of thing, and Tinder. Yeah. So, before we first got together, obviously, our dating styles were different styles.
Yeah,
call it style.
So, yeah.
So, I was on all the dating sites, every single one, all taking all my chances, going on loads of dates. No, it wasn't quite that bad, but I was on pretty much, I think I had. Tinder was the main one at the time. Bumble is another one. There's a few different ones now since, obviously, I'm not single, but I'm still on them all. I'm not really.
That's why he's not on his phone.
Yeah, so Tinder, Bumble, I think they were the two main ones. There was other ones like Plenty of Fish as well. That's for more like old people. It's a bit of a weird one. They were the kind of ones I can remember anyway, or that I used. And you've never used dating apps?
Never even signed up. That's what you get for the gift of the gab.
Is that why you never did?
I don't want this to sound really big-headed, but I never needed to go on them.
You would talk to that. I always say, like, I'm quite sociable for my job, but you are a different breed in the sense that, like...
Got the Billings gene.
Yeah, your dad's, like, the same, and he's, like, you would talk to, like...
A brick wall.
Yeah, but, like, I think it is a gift of a guy. It's a gift to be able to go up to someone and just, like, spark up that conversation straight away. Like, not, like, even in a dating sense, just, like... talking to an old man across the road and like standing talking to him for half an hour about nothing but like
but I love talking to him. You might not speak to many other people in a day.
Yeah, I think it's just personality types. Like, I'm not antisocial by any means.
Yeah, you always say hi, don't you? You might stop and have a brief conversation, but if we're walking in, I can be half an hour later, can't I? Because I'm stuck in convo.
I'm much more like I'm always doing something or I've got something to do, so I'm always focused on what I'm doing, and if I see someone whilst I'm out, I'm like, "Hey, you're right," but I'm like, "This is what I'm doing." You'll just like stop and chat like there's no care in the world.
Yeah, but do you think that's maybe because I have the time? Like when I go work, it's not 9 till 5, but you know those hours, and then your job's just your life, isn't it? Whereas when I'm out work, I can just chill. I don't have anything to worry about. I might have places to be, but
but maybe it's partly being like self-employed and thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and having a list of things to do. But that doesn't really matter. You might be like a parent and you've got loads of things to do and you're running ragged or whatever. So it's maybe being self-employed makes you a bit more busy. So I'm like, but I think it's more about how my brain works. I'm just like, I think it's again, don't want to make sexist presumptions, but most men I know are like, you know how they say men can't multitask? It's like, I'm doing this thing and that's what I'm doing. And if all these other things, whereas women, again, sexist stereotype,
so sexist.
Not all women, but from my experience of knowing women and comparing them to men, like for example, like my mum and my sister and knowing you and other women, they are much better at multitasking and juggling lots of balls at one time. I'm not saying men can't do that.
That's why.
Yeah, I'm not saying men can't do that, but I just think, in my experience, women are better at it. And me personally, I just want to go, right, I'm doing this thing, that's what I'm doing.
I'm just dead chill though, I think. Not really.
Yeah, you're quite calm in chaos, aren't you? But I'm the same as well, really.
Yeah, but you're
I don't think we both panic, but I just think...
I'm just a bit chilled. If I've got to be somewhere, that's fine, but I can stop and have a chat to someone on the way.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you didn't have dating apps because you...
No, but I also wasn't looking to date anybody, I really wasn't bothered at the time. But when I was younger, they weren't prevalent really when I was younger, were they?
Well, you know that. It's only 4 years difference.
Yeah, there's only 4 years, but I think that in those 4 years, from me being 14... to you being 14 was a massive...
I'm dating out at 14.
Well, 15. No, what I'm saying is from 14, I think I got a mobile phone at 12.
Yeah.
So when you were that age, you probably had one for a while.
I remember getting I probably had a BlackBerry in like year 9 or 10 when BBM was a thing and you like pinging everyone and stuff like. Before that, it was like a Sony Ericsson, I think, slide up phone with all your music on, and then after that, obviously.
Motorola.
iPhone.
Razr.
That was before. Was that before Black?
That's my first phone. Yeah.
And then after that, obviously, the smartphones came in, iPhone, Samsung, or whatever.
But what I'm saying is, there's 4 years between me and you, and technology-wise, it was a big difference in 4 years. You know, they were just.
Yeah, but surely when you were 8, I mean, were you in a relationship when you were 18?
Yeah.
So, when was the first time in your adult life that you were single? Was you what 20? Your 20s?
Yeah.
You just didn't. Why did you? Are you against the dating sites? You think?
No, I'm not against him. I just they don't fit purpose for me. Yeah. Like I don't need it.
I suppose ironically, I was on a lot, and at one time I was like a serial dater. Like, no, I don't mean this in like a really big headed way. It's like the way I saw it is, I got kind of annoyed with like I don't really like small talk, which is why I like doing this, for example, because we don't really. It's not like boring conversation. We get straight into a conversation and we're talking about a conversation. But that's because obviously we know each other, but you wouldn't do that with someone on the street. But what I'm saying is like that small talk, especially on dating apps and stuff, is just that back and forth as, hi, how are you? Or that kind of point. Or do you go in with like a punchline of like,
no,
really ballsy and chat line, and then you come across as a bit of a tit, but like some women would like that. So it's a bit of a minefield for men and women if you're on dating sites to know what to say, and I think sometimes you overthink it as well. But yeah, anyway, I got sick of that, so I was like, I just wanted to go on a date as quick as I could, like an interview process, because it was like,
what was your end game though? Why?
Well, because the end game was if there was a connection or if we liked each other, then we knew early on rather than messing about for 2 weeks. Well, not 2 weeks, but messing about for months talking.
Can you have a connection and really know each other?
No, but I think
if you haven't spent months getting to know.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, you have to get to know someone. What I'm saying is, I was cutting the bullshit of messaging over messengers and not meeting the person in person and going, right, let's go on a date as soon as possible so we can find out whether one I like it and two what the next, and go from there. I'm not saying I was like, I want to get in a relationship and want to have kids and get married. It wasn't like that. I wasn't forcing that.
So what you're saying is you want the old-fashioned way, but from a phone.
Yeah, because I think everyone who's like, when you're younger and when you're dating, you can create a perception that isn't even like who you actually are, you know.
Yeah, you can worry, you can say what you want over.
Yeah, there's loads of catfishing. Everyone's putting like filters on the photos and, you know, giving it the big and over messaging, and you meet them and they're really actually shy and they look nothing like what they look like.
You sound like speaking from experience.
Well, maybe sometimes. And then you've proper been catfished as well. Also, I was watching Russell Howard the other night and he was talking about on one of his stand-ups on Netflix. Where did the word catfish come from? Because obviously the word catfish means that you're showing something that you're actually not when you meet the person. But a cat, what's that got to do with a catfish?
I don't know. Catfishes are big and buffy, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're not pretending. Maybe, I suppose it's because they can transform. Maybe.
Change massively from being...
But what does having, like, pretending you're something you're not have to do with catfish? But I suppose with a little bit of transformation. Anyway, side note. So, yeah, that was my kind of perspective when I was dating. And ironically, I met you not through a dating app. And 3 years later, here we are. Well, nearly 4 years later, but 3 years in a relationship later.
Yeah.
But, so that was kind of my, not tactic. And
it didn't work anyway.
One thing I would say, I've heard saying to you before, is if you are dating, little tip that I found out the hard way is don't commit to a meal straight away, because then that can be really awkward if you don't get on with the person, or they're quite quiet or whatever, or you just don't like them for whatever reason. I know some people, I've never done this, but I know some people... So
what's your in-between date then? Because if you go, like, cinema, you can't talk to each other.
No, you wouldn't go to cinema, that's also a bad idea.
But if you go for a meal, it's a bit intense, so what would be an
just
ideal...
a coffee or a walk or something that's like...
You can get out.
something you can commit to, and then if you want to, then you could have a coffee, and then if you haven't had any food or whatever, you could go, shall we go for food if you like the person, or you can go, my nan's just died, I've got to go, or something, and make an excuse. Or you can basically just run off, can't you? Because you don't like the person without being
I'm
rude.
busy, I've got somewhere to be.
Yeah, which is probably a white lie. But like, instead of that, I know people that have like, I don't know people, well, do I? Yeah, I've had conversations with people that have been on dates and they've just like done one halfway through the meal, which I would never have the balls to do, but I'm probably too polite to do that. But
that's really mean.
It is really mean, but actually, if you're a man as well, you'd probably be made to pay the bill.
Do you want pudding? No, I'm alright, thanks, I'm a bit full.
You'd probably be made to pay the bill as well, wouldn't you? That you with a person you don't like, which is even worse.
You've never paid the bill for me.
Okay, then. Easy, my voice. I know. Should a man pay the bill? On a first date context, not in a relationship, it's different then. But in a first date context, do you think a man should pay the bill?
No, I've always offered. In fact, didn't I pay for our first date? Role reversal.
Well, it wasn't really a first date, was it?
First meal together then.
At McDonald's, you mean?
No, you bought me a McFlurry, didn't you? There you go, that's very
really splurged out. It was just like, have them nuggets.
Didn't we go Miller and Carter and I paid for it?
Maybe, but we didn't really have a first date as such. We kind of just knew each other already, and then we got to know each other more. You could have called it dating, but I don't think we had an official first date where, like a blind date where you've never met the person. It was just more
like company, wasn't it? Like we just like spending time with each other and just having a catch up and chat.
I think that's how most couples. If you don't come from an online dating background, which is happening less and less now because of the technology now, everyone, especially because of COVID, like. Imagine going through COVID and like try and date, like, oh yes, we'll meet in the park but stand 2 meters away.
I think it's really sad. I think you find a lot like the new generation, and I'm saying this as a parent of a young daughter. It's really sad how the new generation don't know how to socialise, and it's like.
I think it's I would say maybe it's a combination of COVID and technology, because technology was always playing a part anyway, and then COVID was like a bang 2 years without really socialising.
My daughter, she can talk to people, can't she? Like Jem she can go up, and if I say, oh, go pay that, she'll go, hiya, can I do it? And she's absolutely fine sort of in those social situations. But when I look at children of that age, young teenagers, I think, gosh, they just grunt at you, don't they? Or they just, hiya, you alright? Yeah.
Do you think that comes from parenting, or do you think it's personality trait?
No, I really believe it's a social media thing, because they never actually have to have full conversations with people.
I would say
they do it online.
Yeah.
So they just, and the text language they use online is like, my daughter's godmother, she gets really offended when she texts her because she'll do one word answers and she won't put any kisses.
Yeah, but I don't think that's any. It's just how they. I remember being that age and that sort. Yeah, you talk to each other.
Kisses to your Auntie Becky because she gets upset when you do.
As if you're being like arsey or.
Yeah, but so our generation, if you didn't put kisses on the message, you're upset with them. You're being short. Whereas
I remember when you used to put like WUU2, like what you up to, and then are you okay? Like my dad still does that now.
Well, Jem, IDK, I don't know.
And he's got a normal phone with.
And I'm sat there sometimes, I'll get these messages, what does that mean? IDK, what's that mean? And then you click and you're like, oh, I don't know. There was another one that came up like, I know, right?
Yeah, like IKR.
Yeah, and I'm like, huh?
It's all just like lazy
Takes
texting.
me 10 minutes to get out, but that is all I will get back.
Because everything is so fast on technology.
My point being, that's what they like over text message. It's even worse in real life. I think they don't know how to hold a conversation. And when you start talking to teenagers, I mean, not all of them, but some of them who haven't been exposed to conversation so much in the house.
Lots of social.
Yeah, social.
I don't think it's
my Gem's grown up with a lot of adults, hasn't she, we say. So she's good at talking because she's spent a lot of time with adults, and one of my friends says that all the time. So she's good at socialising, but she's never had any other choice. So she talks to many different adults because that's been her life. But for somebody who might grow up in a nuclear household or just a single parent, and you don't have that interaction, you eat your tea and you go up to your room, or you don't ever say, go on then, you go pay the bill for me, or...
Yeah, I think...
Is it laziness, or am I doing
It's different, I think, with people you come to with, like, close friends and family members who you live with. you can be very sociable with them and then put yourself in a different setting that you're not in, and you can be way out of your comfort zone and not sociable at all. But I think,
but does that come from the way you brought up? Because my dad,
I think it is a little bit like a muscle. He is a little bit of a muscle. I would say, I remember when I first started personal training, and I remember the conversation that I had with my mum. I was not dead shy growing up, but I was a little bit quiet. I still am a little bit like that now, but now I just like the sound of my own voice, as you can tell. But I remember having the conversation with my mum and saying, I don't know whether I can do. At the time, I was just starting at a gym and like running classes and stuff with groups of people where I had to shout and raise my voice and approach people and talk to them and spark up conversation. And I remember having the conversation with my mum and saying, I don't think I can do this because I'm not sociable enough. And my mum was like, you'll be fine.
Whereas me, that's like my dream job.
But it's like a muscle. Like now, I do that most days, and doesn't bother me at all. I talk to groups of people. I now do public speaking as well, which I've started doing. So, and actually, I really like doing that. I buzz off.
So where do you think that came from then? Because I would say your mum's quite sociable, so you've always spent a lot of time as a child around somebody who would stop in the street and speak to somebody.
I think a little bit of a learned behaviour from my dad's my dad's very sociable, but he's not like shy. It's like being reserved. So sitting back in a situation, not being that ballsy person who comes in the room, was like, whoa, like I've never been that person. But I suppose my job has forced me to be a little bit more. I have to approach people, make them feel comfortable, talk to them, make them feel relaxed, rather than just ignoring them and being like, and kind of sitting back like I normally would. So that was what I was worried about. And then, 5 years later now, I do that every single day. I'm very sociable. In fact, probably the most sociable I am is at work. But I think it's a combination of, nature and nurture. Partly you will have traits from your parents or people who you spend time with. But I do think it is a muscle like anything else. Like you put yourself in situations daily, weekly, where you have to speak to new people, whether that's doing that in your job because you've got to make sales or whatever it is, and eventually you do become more sociable.
Adapt, don't you? But I would say it's much easier for... I've grown up in a household where one of my parents will talk to a brick wall like me.
So that's what I'm saying, that nature, what you've already...
Yeah, but then my other parent would just walk down the street and not even say hi to someone. Not because... but because they just you want to get on with their own thing,
Yeah, but
you've got a small circle. And
in that way, I think you are more. You're obviously a mix of your mum and dad, but you're more sociably like your dad, and like we were saying earlier, you will go and speak to like a lamppost.
But my mum she always says, my girls have got the Billings trait, and I wish I had it. I'm so proud I'm so happy and relieved that my girls can talk to anybody, because that's something that she's never been able to do.
Yeah, I do think it's obviously like anything, it's a mix of nature and nurture, but I think it is a muscle that you like anything else, that if you're not sociable, you can get better at being sociable.
Yeah, we've had training at school though, and about anxieties and learning this kind of learned behaviour. And when you are exposed to it as a child, so for example, me going out with my dad all the time, having to stop 3 times in Anley because he's chatting to everybody, and seeing my dad really like that experience.
He does this thing, doesn't he, which I love really, like he walks up to people and he just introduces himself to whether he's met you or not. He's like, if you're watching or listening to this, Gary, I think this is amazing, but he just go, hi, I'm Gary. And it's like that confidence is like, to someone you don't know, well, it's like, that's amazing, because like they're just like, everyone's a bit taken back. Well, like, oh, hi, Gary, I'm
but you feel it is, don't you? So what I'm saying
that exists less and less with generations.
My life has been growing up with that, and I have seen time and time again, when you put yourself in that situation, say, hi, I'm Gary, hi, I'm Becky, how are you? Nothing bad ever happens. So I've watched that as a child. I've watched it happen day in, day out. My dad go up to people, say those things, and never a bad situation happens. So it was always a really lovely, positive outcome. He'd come away and be like, I've not seen them for ages. It's really nice to see him and chat to him. So that for me as a child, I've seen this all the time, that if you go up to someone and introduce yourself, nothing bad happens. It's actually a really pleasurable experience.
I think in school, that's where your probably anxieties of social settings come, because like, if you do say or do the wrong thing, I remember being in school and like your mates, if you said the wrong or stumbled the wrong word, your mates would be taking the piss out of you because you've just like stumbled. So or like approaching a girl or a boy in a bar, like that is that's anxiety provoking if like you're dating.
Yeah, but if you're confident, it's not, because if you're not after, so I was just like, oh, like you talk, and then you'd be done, like, and then your conversation.
Yeah, but yeah, again, it's a muscle.
You're struggling. You're thinking, how do you do that?
No, again, it's a muscle, isn't it? If you're good, the first time you do it, you're probably going to be like sweat patches.
No, because you're
absolutely
thinking,
crapping yourself,
no,
and then you do more and more. You get better.
You're making it such a big thing. Like the first
but it
time
is,
I've done that, it was never a problem.
Because you've lived your life doing that. That's what I'm saying. You've had like.
You just go through your life complimenting people or saying I hear.
Yeah, but not everybody does do that though. You that's come from a little bit from your parenting and learned behaviour. If someone hasn't got that learned behaviour, they're starting off from the point of actually I'm not that social. I've not been brought up that social, but I want to be more social, whether it be for a job or trying to date or trying to approach men or women or whatever it is. That first one, I say this to clients all the time, like the first time you step in the gym, you will be shit. You won't be good at training in the gym. You're not going to be mint. Like, you're going to be shit for that first time, but you keep doing it and you get better and you get better. And it's the same principle, like with dating or whatever, or being more sociable, is like the first time you approach that girl or boy and ask them, or you're gonna be sweat patches, crapping it, and she always probably gonna say no, but then it builds up a barrier of going the next one, until eventually, that's basically what I've seen. Like, I was never like this going out in clubs, but I saw some lads like not brutal, but like I kind of not envied it, well, a little bit, but it was also, I wouldn't say desperate, I don't think that's the right word, but like ballsy in the sense that like I would literally observe some lads going round the club and they would just ask, and eventually someone would say yeah, and they'd probably go home with somebody. I think what we were saying as before is the thing with dating as well is like the difference from men to women, as I say this all the time, like in your lifetime you've probably been approached, well, we talk about that you've been approached a number of times, people buying you drinks and which is an amazing compliment. But as a man, I can probably count on one hand, if that. In fact, I don't think never as a woman came up to me when I was single and I was going out and gone, can I buy you a drink? But the other way around, it happens a lot because
we went a hen
I don't know whether it's a society thing of men approach women or should, or I don't know. I think I'm not saying no women approach men, I'm just saying it happens a lot less, and there's a lot more pressure put on men to go and do that and approach a woman. I would say
I went to my cousin's hen party in the summer, and I said to you, didn't I, we did 5 days in Portugal, Albufeira. I spent €160 on the holiday. Like, well, I was there. He says, well, how have you done that? I was like, women get in free everywhere. All your drinks get paid for. And when we went to this really expensive beach club, this stag do sent over bottles of champagne to our bed. So
it's like that in Vegas as well. I've not been, but like some of my clients have told me that they let all the women in for free because it gets the men in.
So really, these clubs and bars prey on this sexy sort of men approach women men buy women drinks behaviour, and they make a lot of money off it. Because we were a hen party at 20 in Portugal, weren't we? And they want you in there because apparently it wasn't
that's what I'm saying. So the difference is, like, if I went away with the lads, we're never going to go and be like, oh, we spent only €100 each, because all the girls are just buying us drinks and that, and we just lose them in. Like, you just wouldn't ever. I don't know any lad that's happened to.
But I see a bar full of men and I think, oh no, let's go to the next one.
Sometimes for women as well, like you said, like you can go into a bar full of men and it can actually be annoying, the amount of men that will approach you. But I don't think that's anything against the men. I think, as long as they're being okay about it and not being weird.
I think the older you get as well, I think your expectations and what you want from dating is very different. So now, maybe when I was younger, I might have been quite flattered with lots of men coming up to me, offering me, buy me drinks, chatting. And now, I suppose it comes from being in a relationship and being older, but I really haven't got time for it. I feel like I was just a bit annoyed by it. I was like, can you just leave me alone so I can sit and have a conversation with my friends and enjoy my drink?
Whereas that's like a man's dream, like just women coming up to you going, can I get you a drink? You'd be like sitting with the lads.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do that.
You'd be sitting with the lads going, just keep coming.
They take, like, say we all had these
just doesn't happen though, does it?
Bunny ears on, and their way of flirting or trying to get attention is like they take your bunny ears off and put it on their head, and you're like...
Yeah, because with, that would work, different women would respond differently to different
Yeah,
tactics.
but then I'm just like, I've just paid €5 for them. They're giving me back.
Yeah, but some women would then be like, oh, you know, you'd be like kind of being playful.
Which is fine, but then when it's the 10th guy who's done it to you in half an hour...
But yeah, you said that was like a very 80% lads
it was
kind
nuts.
of place.
I've never been anywhere like it, and I'm not sure I'd want to go again.
That
area.
I've been there with my mum, so it was a bit of a different experience. But we wasn't going out trying to get on loads of girls because I was with my mum. But
there, I would say, so if we're talking about apps and face to face, there I don't think face to face was a problem at all. I think
no, but I think say that is a situation where it's probably young people now, they were stopped from COVID, but actually that's the one of the few settings where you're thrown into where there's groups of people, but it's a bit different going on like a lads or girls holiday because everyone's basically pretty much up for it. You know what I mean? In the sense that everyone's there to pull or have a good time. So it's a little bit more...
None of us...
Yeah, but generally, if you go somewhere like quite party, it's mostly 18 to 30-year-olds who are young and, you know, not always single, but most of, 80% probably, I don't know this exactly, but I would imagine 80% of them are single, and they're all looking for, you know, a bit of action basically to pull someone away.
Are they single?
Or sometimes they're not single, they still get some action, it's just like, anything goes, but that isn't a normal social setting, like, when you go out and meet people like at home or whatever, it's not like a free-for-all, it's a bit of a free-for-all when you go on holiday. It's different, isn't it, when you're in this country or you just go out on a normal night.
Are you looking for a long term, not a long, but like a relationship when you're at home if you're single? Are you looking for someone who's actually decent, a nice person, kind? Are you after that? Whereas I suppose if you're on holiday, maybe you're not. I don't know. You don't think you're going to see him again on holiday?
Yeah, but then again, we've got friends. I've got friends.
Yeah, we have.
Chris and Zoe met in Ibiza.
If you're listening.
Met in Ibiza, and they were both one was on a lads and girls holiday, and now, you know...
What, are they 5-6 years down the
line? Yeah, they're like in a serious long-term relationship. And
a nice house, quite.
So sometimes they say, don't they, like it comes when you least expect it or whatever. Maybe there's an element of that. I think sometimes, you know, there's a lot of things like us to a certain element. We were both single. We weren't looking for a relationship. No. But then you meet someone who...
I was the opposite, wasn't I? Could not be bothered with any men.
But I was the same. Like I'd been in in some long-term relationships. So I was like, I want to have time to be free and single and enjoy myself. And then
I was loving my life.
Just met each other.
My friend's wedding in Kefalonia. We were all going to the gym together. We were just, you know, enjoying this journey. The wedding was amazing. Like I had such a lot going on in my personal life. I didn't need or want a partner because it would have got in the way of all my other plans that I had. So,
do you think maybe then if there's other way around and you're putting a lot of pressure on getting a partner, maybe...
I think you make bad decisions.
You make bad decisions on the people that you choose, or...
Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. I mean, I don't want to say the word desperation and say people are desperate.
No, because everybody's looking for companionship, whether it's through friends and relationships or family or whatever. Doesn't mean you have to be in a relationship, but
I think you have to have a lot of self-worth and understand that you don't have to jump in for the first thing that comes. You can wait and, you know...
But then that is the element of, like, my kind of technique when I was dating. And, again, this was when not looking for a relationship exactly, but I was just kind of, I suppose call it, I don't know, not playing the field, really. I was just kind of putting myself in those situations because it's like getting the reps in, like go on a date, see if I like a person. If I do, it might go somewhere. If not, next one. And like, you know what I mean? It was like
that was the other way around. I was like, oh no, not someone asking me to go on a date again. I can't be bothered.
Yeah, it depends what you're looking for as well. You might not go on a date. You might just be meeting up for, you know, casual sex or whatever. But
I didn't want any of that. I had a really nice friendship group, and my social life was full to the brim with my friends. I almost had no room for somebody, so I didn't have a little space in my heart that was yearning for somebody to fill it, because I didn't have that. I was really happy on my own with my family and my friends, and that fulfilled my life at the time.
I think we're both a bit like that though, aren't we? Like, I love my own company.
Yeah, we say this don't you? But a lot, don't we? Like, we don't. And I said this to his mum once, and she was like, I'm a little bit worried for my son. I said, I don't need Finn. I'm not with him because I need him. I'm with him because I want him and I want to be with him and I enjoy being with him. And that's very, very different.
And because she's lucky enough to be with me. It's like...
If you take us apart, we say this all the time, you separate us. We've got very, very fulfilled lives separately. You know, we have good social lives, we have good friends, good family. My life's pretty busy with jobs and everything like that, but you bring us together and it's even better. But I don't need him. I survive quite fine on my own, but it's better with him. And I think that is a really, really privileged position to be in with a partner in a relationship, that you can survive on your own and you're very self-sufficient and you enjoy your own company. It's hard though,
isn't it? Because some people struggle with it. Yeah. I know a lot of people that struggle to be on their own. Like, I don't mean be on their own being single, or be on their own like they don't even like their own company, like they can't even... For personality traits, like some people are really like extroverts and they like being around people all the time.
I like that, don't I? But it doesn't mean I can't be around
I think, yeah, I like that, but I like the balance of both. If I've like been around people and really socialise
Sorry guys, it's really cold in here. It's making me sniff.
I need to put the heating on, but...
It's freezing.
Energy bills, yeah,
Yeah, he says I put the heating on and I could see the tears coming out of his eyes when he was saying it. So I was like, it's okay.
Cut the... Don't worry. I'll have to get some candles or something.
You can't see, but I've literally got my dressing gown on my legs. Yeah.
These mics and stuff aren't cheap, like it's...
Yeah.
It was buy these or put the heating on for a week, so,
Crazy.
This podcast comes first, doesn't it? But anyway, yeah, so... I do think there is some people who struggle to be on their own, whether it be single, so they feel like they need somebody, or again, not use the word desperate, because
no, I don't
it's not desperation. We all crave to be part of something, whether it's a part. It's like an innate kind of caveman woman thing of like being. I want to be part of a friendship group. I want to be part of a couple. I want to be part of a family. You need a community to belong to. So that's kind of an innate feeling. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think sometimes, like me personally, I have the balance of, I spend a lot of time on my own, really, don't I? But then I'm always like, when I'm on my own, I'm always like doing stuff. I'm not just like sitting on my own thinking I'm on my own. Do you know what I mean? But if I was like that, then I'd be like, right, I would come and see you or go and see your friends.
We're very different. We're very different real life, don't you? Like, you'll go work in the morning and then I'll go work in the day, and then when I'm home, you go work again, and you don't come home till 8:30.
And I spent my job is working with people, so I see clients on a daily basis, so, and that's like a very personal interaction with intense, those people. Isn't it? So then, like, I like my own space as well, because that balances out, my job of socialising, like, and interacting with people intensely, yeah, but like that's kind of part of the service, and it's very personal. I can't just be like, I'm going to sit on my phone for an hour while you do some press ups or something. It's like, if I did, I wouldn't be very good at my job. But yeah, I think there's an element of that. But do you think now, with going back to the dating, the younger generation now, there's less, like, let's say, like, if you're 18 now, is it just purely, it's just like pretty much purely online, Tinder, TikTok, whatever, messaging each other like?
I don't know, because I think 18-year-olds still want to go out, do they not? Do you?
Well, now, post-COVID and things have opened up, I think, definitely, but...
I think, I'm touching 30, but even people in the early 20s still really enjoy going out and going to pubs, bars. I like more of a restaurant than coming in really.
I think that's it. I always talk to clients about this as well, like, I'm going to sneeze without sneeze, sorry.
It's because it's too cold in here.
I'm trying not to sneeze down the mic. I think it's gone. I have conversations with clients like the difference in what you like, an age thing of like when you're 18 you love going out in a club and like boom boom boom, just dancing or whatever. When you get older it's a bit more like, should we go to a cocktail bar so we can have a conversation,
got a bit more money then though, haven't you?
Probably a little bit more money, but I think what you actually enjoy, like if I was 18 and someone, like, we used to go out for food and stuff like with my mates, but then it'd be like, we're going out for a meal and then we're going out uptown. It wouldn't be like, let's go for a meal and then go home and go bed. Like, we got.
We were up Hanley last night. We went to see Russell Kane, and we were driving home, and he goes to me, "Oh my God, there's people going out in the town."
It's only like 11:15, half 10, isn't it?
I couldn't think of anything worse right now.
on a Friday night. That's what I'm saying. We were going Mackey's. your perceptions change on what you enjoy and what you don't. So that's just an age thing, I think. And don't get me wrong, there is some 30-year-olds who still love going out clubbing and probably getting on it all the time. But again, this is a general rule. We're not kind of stereotyping anybody, but as an age thing, you change. And then when you get maybe, I don't know, maybe when you get in your 50s, you won't go for afternoon tea or something. I don't know, maybe.
I love afternoon tea.
Yeah, but instead, again, I remember the transition of probably when I was about 20, early 20s. I'm only 25 now, but I remember maybe 2-3 years ago thinking, day drinking's way better than night drinking.
It's because it hurts.
Because you go to bed and have an actual night's sleep, and then the next day you're not like written off. Like when you go out at night, it's like, start drinking at 8, like don't go out till 10, 11, hit the club, don't get in till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Oof. Next day in bed, written off. And then it's kind of...
No, you used to have to go work the next day.
Well, I used to, yeah. I couldn't imagine doing that now. I used to work weekends.
We've been around someone's house, haven't we? And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, coming up to 2:30, and you were like, I've got work at 8:30.
Yeah, there's the element as well when you get older. You can't, obviously your hangovers get worse, and your sleep becomes a little bit more important because you can't just deprive yourself loads of sleep and be hungover, and you feel bad for 4 days rather than just feeling bad for a day when you're like 18. So there is that as well.
Thanks, sir.
I think, sorry, I just coughed. COVID.
The
new variant.
I hope not, because it was a bit late now. I've not had it yet, have I? If I was going to have it,
it's not really talk. It's like, when we went watch, it's funny because when we watched Russell Kane last night, he was talking about like how funny, how ridiculous just what we did was in like, in the sense that like
looking back, like how crazy it was. I think because it happened bit by bit, you just were like, yeah, okay, well we won't.
Yeah, just like taking the piss out of like he was taking the piss out of like the rules that we followed and how contradictory and stupid they were, in the sense that like he was talking about beauticians and he was saying, oh, you can't go get your nails done, Sally, down the salon, and when she's wearing a mask and she's got full kitted out and getting your nails done, but you can go get some shots down the local pub. And it's like, it was so ridiculous, wasn't it? Like, with a bar when everyone's pissed and no one's paying attention to it, self-awareness because you're just walking around, rule of 6 around the table, which never actually happened.
You can eat out to our pal, but you can't get your nails
done. Yeah. But
it was funny, wasn't it?
It was so ridiculous, like a beautician who was trained in that's a professional environment, and barbers and stuff, and it was like, but you can go around the pub and get pissed. It's just silly. With no mask on. As well. There was no mask in pubs, was it?
Well, no, how are you going to get the drink in?
There was, wasn't there, when you sat at a table and you couldn't have a mask on, but if you walked to the toilet, you had to put a mask on. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Well, we like going out for food, and even just like Wetherspoons, I like cheap and cheerful. If you can't remember cooked tea, £5, burger and beer.
Yeah.
Done. And we were always in all of them, weren't we, throughout COVID? When they were open, we'd be there, and I do remember.
Well, everyone was making them like, again,
sitting down in spoons, and the signs on the wall saying beer is now like £1 because it's going out of date because it's been shut for so long.
No, but every experience became special because it was like going down the pub was a special experience because it hadn't happened in so long. So that's why everyone became like, these little things that I took for granted are now important.
So do you think people, in terms of dating, were desperate to get back into the social element of dating?
Definitely, yeah.
Instead
but
of
I also think there'd be an element of
Tinder
and again, bit of more anxiety. And imagine being 18, right? Again, Russell Kane was saying this last night. Like, imagine being 16, 17, 18, and your mum and dad just going, well, your mum and dad didn't say it, but he was like, right, you got to stay in your bedroom for 2 years, pretty much. And then you come out and you're like, right. They're like kind of the biggies most important years, especially in terms of dating and getting...
But not the lucky thing, but I think the whole aspect of it being, it happened to everybody makes it easier. If that had just happened to one person on their own and everyone else was out socialising, that'd be really
so
but the fact that it happened to absolutely everyone was in
so
the
same
situation.
I feel really awkward. Do you feel really awkward? Yeah, this is weird, isn't it? So there was a little bit of that.
People. Yeah, you're all in the same boat. It wasn't that you were experiencing something that somebody else wasn't. They were all in the same boat.
Some horses have just gone past, got a country life.
Interrupted me conversation.
Sorry.
For a horse.
Easily distracted. No, it was 2 horses actually.
2 horses. You can hear them normally actually.
Clippers, you clapped him.
We haven't got the windows open because it's too cold.
Yeah, freezing. Well, yeah, I think that like you say, it's that element of we've all gone through this together, so actually we can talk about how weird it was because it's not like, when someone says like, when you're not feeling good and you talk to someone else and go, oh, I felt like that before, it's like a weight off your shoulders because you go, I'm not the only one. It was like COVID was like a joint camaraderie. We've all been through this together, so we've come out of it together. But I think the other issue thing is with dating nowadays is, I found this again with dating sites, is just there's so much choice and it's so easy to jump ship and just move on and go on another date or leave the relationship, and so easy to like cheat and stuff as well. Like, I'm not saying it
yeah, you remember that one.
Yeah, I remember that. Tinder. It's so easy to think the grass is green on the other side. Like, for example, you can go on Tinder and match with someone in half an hour and be like, right, let's meet up and I'll meet you down this alleyway. Let's get to business.
What?
Well, I did that, but no, I didn't. I didn't do that. Ew. Not down an alleyway, anyway. But what I'm saying is, like, you could do that. You could do that if you wanted to. So if you're in a relationship and it's not going great, it's not working out, then it's so easy to just, you've had an argument and just jump ship. Or, I mean, if you're in a relationship that you're not happy with, that's different. Then you finish a relationship and you move on.
Is the grass always greener? We have this conversation, don't we? Something I always say is you can be the wrong match, so you might not be a good match as a couple, but generally, if you've got a relationship that works well and you hit a bump in the road, the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is green where you water the problem is, that's what they say.
The problem with online dating now is, like, years ago, let's say pre-technology, pre-dating sites, if things weren't going well in a relationship, you would have to kind of ride it out a little bit. There was the element of, like, if we go back 50 years, there was a lot of stigma around if you got divorced and stuff, and people stayed in relationships where they perhaps shouldn't because they weren't happy. But I think a bit later on than that, there was like, well, it's not easy for me to just go back out there and get with someone else because it takes a lot of effort. So let's see this through and see if it works and then jump ship. Whereas now it's like one argument, things aren't going right, she's pissed me off or he's pissed me off, so on Tinder I can go and find it elsewhere. The problem with that is then that most people or some people will do that and then realise the grass isn't always greener. And like anything, I think that even a relationship, there has to be work to put in there. It's not going to be like amazing all the time. Like,
yeah, and you can't just put the work in at the beginning and expect that to serve you for the rest of your life. Like, it's an ongoing.
The biggest question is I like asking like married couples questions, like they've been married years. I say like, what's the secret? Like just winding them up, and they say, the biggest thing is like
compromise,
communication, compromise. Sticking it out through the hard bits as well. Like, but I think now the problem is with like the younger generation and even now my generation a little bit, is like you don't have to put with the bad stuff because you can just move on to the next one.
Yeah, but when you realise that everyone's got a bit of bad stuff, you have to pick the bad stuff.
Well, yeah, there's no perfect. But I think then the other thing of that is like on these dating sites, you can create this. I want this, like a shopping list of going. I want him to have ginger hair, personal trainer. Well, you might be like, the typical one will be like tall, dark, handsome,
banker,
doesn't have a poo ever.
Well, I couldn't be with someone like that.
You know what I mean? Like proper specific things, and I think when you do that, it's like it's too specific in the sense that like anyone who's just okay, he's tall, dark, but he's got.
Well, we have a laugh.
Blonde hair, so it's a no. It's like, that's the thing, you can do that with dating sites.
We have a laugh, don't we? Because one of my friends in my friendship group loves gingers. She absolutely loves them. Like, she was always attracted to gingers. They'd be the people she'd sort out when we went to Ibiza. She spotted a ginger from like 5 miles away. She'd be, oh my God, look at him.
Because he was so pale.
No, he wasn't actually. And I was a bit like, I don't get it. Why? I don't get it. I don't understand. Why do you like ginger? She's like, I just love them, they're dead fit, this, that and the other. I was like, okay, right, whatever. She was the one who was going on about Finn being dead, like fit and good looking. Oh, look at this little ginger, that and the other. I was like,
she's got a set of eyes, hasn't she?
Yeah, it's alright actually for a ginger.
Like they say though, you never liked gingers. But again,
and then here we are.
What I'm saying is, I think everyone's got a little bit. Yeah, thanks. Everyone's got a type, haven't they? But
but I feel like
if you're too specific with that type, anyone who's slightly outside of that kind of zone, you're kind of not even giving them a chance. And actually, if you're not physically attracted to him, then you're not physically attracted to him. But what I'm saying is, like, I know, like, lads and girls will be like, they've got to have this, and this. It's like, oh, maybe just be a bit more open-minded. And, you know, what they have on the inside, you might really like, and they might be really funny and make you laugh. Like, you know, looks do fade, and
you do shrink.
You do shrink, and looks fade, and, you know, I'm not saying you get with someone who you're not physically attracted to, but I think if you speak to a woman, right? If you speak to a middle-aged woman and say, right, what you younger girls are a bit different, because when we're younger, we often, you know, we want the aesthetic stuff. We want them to look six pack or whatever. But when you get older, you kind of care less about them things. But speak to a middle-aged woman and say, what do you want in a man? And he'll probably say something like, well, you make me laugh and not be a dick. Pretty much, like, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think when you're too specific and you want all these,
that comes from experience.
You're kind of expecting this, like, you're almost setting up people to fail before they start, because you're wanting all these amazing things and going, they've got to tick this box, and if one thing goes wrong, I'm jumping onto the next one, and you're creating this persona of this perfect person who's going to come and wipe you off your feet, give you loads of money, make your life amazing, and you've put no effort in. And I think, do you know what I mean? There's definitely the online dating world has just made that worse, because you've got access to so many people.
Well, is he going to let me speak today, or is he going to keep going?
I had a lot of caffeine this morning. You got access to so many people. Do you want this
a conversation, or do you just want to talk?
I just put both of the mics in each other.
Just having like that, like,
so go on, I'll let you
No, his moment's gone now, you carry on.
Well, I forgot what I was talking about now.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You've interrupted me.
Well, thank goodness, you're probably getting sleep.
It's a little bit like Netflix, isn't it? The problem is with Netflix is you can't choose what to watch, can you? Because there's that much choice, and that's the same with online dating sometimes. Like, you remember when it was channel 1 to 5? You just put a channel on.
Yeah, but in that sense, I can just about remember watching things that you didn't actually want to watch if you're going to.
Yeah, or the other side of that, you were watching something that you thought, oh, this is going to be shit, and actually you're like, oh no, this is all right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you had to. I'm not saying you have to put up with shit that you don't like in a relationship sense. I'm saying that, like, actually, if you give some things a chance, but the problem is with overwhelming you with choice on dating sites or Netflix, it's like. I'm so bad on Netflix that I will choose something. By the time I've chosen something, it's time to go to sleep.
Sometimes they'll say to me, you choose, and I just go, no.
You never choose because she's shit at choosing.
No, do you know why I don't choose? I'm really easygoing, like, doesn't bother me. I'll sit and give something a go, and if I didn't like it after a couple of episodes, I'm not bothered. He'll sit for 2 minutes, like, I don't like this, flick it off, flick it on.
Yeah,
so if I've picked and he's not happy with it, it'd be just like, oh no, I don't want to watch that, flick on, flick off, next one, oh no, I don't want to watch. So in the end, I'm just like, right, I've had enough. You pick what you want. Because I'm really easygoing, I'll watch whatever. You deal with it.
I'm a little bit like it's got to be worth me time if I'm going to watch it.
I actually put something on the other night, didn't I?
If you what's it called? The Dahmer thing, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit like brutal. We won't give it all away, but he basically like murdered loads of men.
He's a cannibal, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah, but he gets aroused by. I didn't know this was a thing, but he gets aroused by. I can't remember the word. But you get aroused by, like, meat and organs and stuff. So whether it's like animals,
the shininess, apparently,
it's something to do with the shyness. So, like fish guts and all them kind of thing, and like organs and hearts and liver. Feeling them like kind of turns him on, which is really weird. And but he's based on a true story.
Yeah,
as well,
I was going to say the craziest thing is that it is a true story. It's not something. But actually, that was good, and I put that on. And he was actually on his phone and his laptop, to be honest. So I got to the point where I was like, well...
No, but then I started watching
I can't bother sit watching you on your laptop in bed. So I put what I wanted on. And then I could see his little head peeking over his laptop. Oh, what's going on? Oh. And then that's it. The laptop went away. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah, so if you are listening to this, which obviously we're watching, watch that on Netflix.
That's good. Yeah.
Like I said, it has to be worth for watching me. And I'm dead fussy with stuff that I watch because... I'm also watching that not really my kind of thing, that Wink saga thing.
Well, it is your kind of thing because you're watching it.
Well, I suppose, yeah, but like I don't mind. It's a bit like Harry Pottery, but a bit like
I like Harry Potter.
they've got like fairies and got magic powers. I'm not into sci-fi a lot, really. I'm not into sci-fi. Like, I'm not a big fan of Star Wars and stuff like that. But it is really good. Yeah, so that's another thing to watch.
What was the question? I think we're boring him.
Yeah, let's wrap it up because I think we've just been chatting shite. So
It's been that long, I forgot what the question was.
there wasn't really a question. We were just talking about how dating has changed from generations and.
Well, I'm always face to face. That's my vote. I love a good chat.
Yeah, but we're not. I don't think that's the solution, is it? I just think you need a combination of socialising and online dating helps you get in situations and meet people. It is a good thing. We're not slagging off online dating saying it's actually. But I just think there's certain bad things about it.
I've never used it and I'm fine. But what I always do laugh, on an end note. My mum and dad have been married 31 years now. 31 years the other day. And my mum always says, if I died, your dad would find someone within a couple of years. Because he just chats to anyone, he would talk to anyone. But she says, if your dad died, I'd never want anyone else.
Maybe that's
because she can't bother girl. She doesn't want to go out and find somebody. She's quite happy.
Maybe when you reach a certain age, I don't know, you're not, especially being married that long, you're just maybe no one else will meet that.
Both my granddads died when I was quite young, and neither of my nans have ever found someone else. But
maybe it's a man and woman difference again of going women are a bit more content with just going, I'm not bothered about that. Maybe I
don't know, everyone wants companionship, but I suppose if that point you've got your family, you've got your kids, you've got your life, you could maybe spend a bit of time with them. You haven't got kids and adults.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe for a man's point of view, I don't know, because obviously women change, especially when they hit the menopause and stuff. Maybe the sexual drive isn't there, so when men got older, they've still got that kind of
we still want
animal instinct. No, the animal instinct of basically sleeping.
No, I don't think she wasn't saying that. She was
No,
saying
I'm not saying that. Your mum wouldn't say that.
She was saying from a social point of view, she wouldn't want to put herself out there and find anyone else. She's content with being with my dad for 30 odd years, and then that.
And she's happy to be on her own.
She loved him. She loved the life she's created with him, and she'd be happy. Whereas she knows my dad's so sociable that it doesn't mean he'd ever love her any less if she went, and something happened to her. Let's hope he doesn't. But he wouldn't want to be on his own because he's like I said, my dad's never said this, to be fair, so sorry dad if you're listening.
Yeah, he might be seeing him do it.
Right, you the only one for me.
No, I'm not. What you're on about? He'd be like, no, that's not true.
But just from the social element, I know your dad. She's I know your dad'd like to chat to somebody.
What you're saying is he'd probably very likely that he would because he's so sociable.
By accident, I imagine.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Right, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you for listening. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with your friends, or your family, or even someone that you're dating.
Maybe.
And get them listened to. Let us know what you think. Send us messages or comment on the post or whatever. And yeah, thank you for listening. We've got an exciting episode coming next week. We've got some guests coming on.
Yes,
so I'm looking forward to that one. It's the first ever guest episode.
I didn't know we were going to fit in, actually, thinking about sort of...
Yeah, these chairs aren't the biggest, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
You'll see next week.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye for a week.
You went 20 minutes ago.